Today, on Celebrating the Arts, I have the pleasure to talk with Bonnie McDaniel, a chef, landscape designer, and author whose cookbook, Farm Girl in the City of Food and Love, will give you delicious recipes that warm the heart. You are an integral part of the reason why Celebrating the Arts came to fruition. So I want to say thank you because speaking with you kind of just put a little bug in my ear to create this series of Celebrating the Arts. And you being somebody that's in the culinary arts, I thought would be perfect to have on as a guest and talk about your cookbook and all your things that you got up your sleeve. So
Perfect. As a matter of fact, one of the new things since we spoke the last time is I am officially launching my YouTube channel. There's something out there, but I'm going to be focusing on that a great deal and getting new videos up as well as some other stuff that's coming down the pike. But it's Bonnie McDaniel, Good Living, Tucker Hill Home.
So then people can go ahead and subscribe to your channel. That's very exciting. Have you always had this, incline towards cooking? Was that always with you?
I would say the reason why it has always been with me is because of my grandmother, because in the South, and I also grew up in a household where you needed to learn how to do everything. And I had an interest from a very little girl because I was always fascinated with the things that my grandmother did. So I paid attention. And I would say probably maybe around 9 or 10, that's when I took it upon myself to start, putting things together because I became very intrigued with how things work together.
Cooking for me is like musical notes. The relationship that different flavors and different spices have to one another, but they create this wonderful melody when they come together in the right way.
Gardening was actually my first thing before the cooking happened. I remember the very first thing I planted in the garden were radishes. And I was so tickled because, when I pulled them up I pulled them up and they were beautiful red. And I think there was some like pink radishes. There were different colors. And that kind of got me hooked. And so every year after that, I planted something. And here I am today.
The last time we spoke, you had your cookbook out.
Farm Girl in the City of Food and Love is a traditional Southern cookbook that is taking into consideration the healthy aspect in Southern recipes.
I have another cookbook that I'm currently working on, but cookbooks take more than a minute. So it's going to probably be not until 2022 before it comes out because it's a lot of work and it's kind of difficult now to get the images photographed because we're in the middle of a pandemic.
Yes.
So yeah, that makes it a little tougher, but it's coming.
And how's the garden coming along?
Well, everything is dormant right now. And one of the other things I should mention is a lot of people don't know because I don't talk about it a whole lot, is that I do urban landscape design. So I build beautiful gardens for other people. But right now we're in our dormant stage and my little brain is going crazy because every year I say I'm done with my garden and I wind up redesigning it. So I'm doing redesign for my garden over the winter, as well as I have 3 projects that are coming up in the spring that I am working on some ideas for. But things are pretty dormant. I am still pulling stuff out of the garden, like some of my salad greens that hasn't gotten to be a deep freeze yet. So I'm still able to go out and pull some salad greens, some herbs, and some of my root vegetables. So it's still giving a little bit. Well, come January, though, we'll be kind of done until March.
Anyone who has that gift to plant and to make things grow. I always say the only thing I've ever grown is children because I kill everything.
But they're good. Children are good things to grow.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I think with the pandemic, a lot of people have begun to appreciate the beauty and also the comfort in getting your hands in the dirt. I have often said, especially over the last few months, if I did not have my garden, if I didn't have other people's gardens, I think it would be very different for me emotionally, because you're kind of locked away from everyone. I can't see anyone. Now I think a lot of people are recognizing the value of home on every level.
I agree. And everybody always thinks that being hunkered down is just such a burden, but it gives us time to learn how to bake our own bread and, cook up recipes that we didn't have time for because we live in a lifestyle that's very quick and very fast and very like demanding. And so to
Right.
stop and almost like smell the bread baking in the oven, not smell the roses, but smell the bread that's baking in the oven, it just gives us a whole new outlook, don't you think?
It does. It does. It does. And I love the connection, because I get notes from people all the time, the connection that a lot of people, a lot of parents have been able to make with their children, not just their small children, but even adult children, because a lot of adult children have come home in the midst of all of this. And there's a connection that's been made there that had we not had this happen to us, perhaps we would have, a lot of people would have missed it.
What's your favorite dish to make?
See, that's a tough question for me because I love to cook so many things.
But if you had to pick one.
If I had to pick one, I would probably say my shrimp and grits recipe, only because that takes me back home. I love shrimp and grits, and whenever I cook that, and I think it's the smell, it makes me feel, it kind of gives me a hug and makes me think about home. So that would probably be one. Although I will tell you, I love, love, love to bake. I love to bake, and baking bread is one of my favorite things to do.
And if you need to, sprinkle a little bit more flour, not a lot, just enough to keep the dough from sticking. And once you do this a few times, and everything's incorporated, and even if some of the walnuts or the dates are poking out a little bit, that's okay.
Something that's very nurturing for me when I'm in the kitchen and I'm dealing with the dough and all of that, that just kind of, it gives me a good feeling.
It's almost therapeutic, don't you think? That
It is, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but especially the bread. I love, as a matter of fact, I'm going to have to make sure I fit in a bread baking session for a new bread that I just discovered, playing around in the kitchen. And it has so many uses. And you can make croutons, you can make stuffings, you can make just French toast, all kinds of wonderful things. And I just love it in the morning, even just to slice up a piece and have it with some yogurt in the morning for breakfast. So I'll probably do that on one of my upcoming lives.
I know that you have a garden and you plant beautiful things that you utilize in your cooking, but you are also an actress?
Oh my gosh, that's too funny. People think that I'm an actor. I guess in a sense I am, in that I've done some, I do mostly print modeling. I'm a lifestyle model. And I have done some industrial film, but I'm not really an actress. My agent has been trying to get me to do that for years, but I kind of like being myself. And acting takes a whole different bring. And I have so much tremendous respect for people who do that. But I've done industrial film before, and voiceover, as well as mostly print modeling I do for lifestyle.
What advice would you give to somebody that, maybe wants to write a cookbook or is beginning to try their hand at the culinary arts?
Dig in and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Even as someone who has been baking and cooking, I mean, I've done elaborate weddings and catered all kinds of really cool stuff. I had a bakery and a restaurant and all of that. But every now and then I get in the kitchen, I make a hot mess. So be forgiving of yourself. I mean, you burn stuff sometimes because you're distracted, or you forget to put an ingredient in and it comes out and it's a mess. Don't be so hard on yourself. Laugh it off and go do it again. Be patient with yourself and don't expect to learn everything overnight. I did not wake up like this. It took years and years and years of a lot of trial and error and me taking my time and learning. A good example of that is my urban landscape design. I had a friend who I just adored, and unfortunately we lost him the beginning of this year, but he was one of the most amazing landscape architects here in the Washington, D.C., and he also worked in other areas. For instance, he did Gwyneth Paltrow's summer home in the Hamptons. I mean, this guy was on that level. He was my mentor. And he would come sometimes and I would see him with his pruning shears and he's in my garden and he's cutting stuff or he's sawing some of the limbs off of my trees. And I'm like, Gordon, what are you doing? He goes, you need to get out here and take care of this. And I was like, okay. And it was all right because I learned so much from him. And so I feel very fortunate that I had him in my life for a good number of years and he taught me a lot. And so my advice would be to listen, learn, and take your time. And it's okay if you screw up every now and then.
Would you be open to mentoring somebody just like he did to you?
I have someone, as a matter of fact, that I am mentoring. She is going to shadow me a lot in the come springtime. She came to me right at the end of the season and we were trying to hurry and finish some stuff up. But yeah, I absolutely, I have someone that I'm going to be working with. I like people who are serious about what they're doing.
Yes.
I like to work with people who are willing to listen and showing up with the right attitude is everything to me, because if you do that, I'll pour my heart into you. But if I get it, in any moment that a sense that you are not serious about what you're doing or that you're just interested in being in front of the camera and being famous, I am not your girl.
What do the arts mean to you?
Oh gosh, it's almost like the seasoning. It's the seasoning, because without the seasoning, there's nothing. You can have all of the other ingredients, but unless you put in that seasoning and that balance, the arts, for instance, in school, it's important that children have art. It's important that they have music and piano and all of that, because it helps to round out a person. Again, it's a seasoning. There are a lot of things that we can do as individuals. In the summertime, for instance, I have no problem. Children come into my garden all the time. They walk past with their families, and I let them come in and I let them discover. I talk to them. That's not something they're going to necessarily get at school. And the other thing that I've done, and again, these are things that individuals can do. I adopted my Bonnie McDaniel Good Living adopted a preschool, and I taught them how to plant a garden. Those are things that people can do. So if you're, a person who is very good at art, you can volunteer your time and go and teach a class. You're not getting paid, but the children are getting the benefit of what it is you know. If you're talented, share that talent with someone.
I love that message. Oh, that was, I've lucked out because the people that I have had on really, truly get the love of the arts and are doing it because they absolutely love it. And so to encourage those folks out there, that's a great call out for everyone to just get involved in our communities and share your talent. Bonnie, you are a celebrity here in the DMV. So
I don't know about that.
Yes, you are. You are. Any appearances on any of the news networks?
You're really putting me on the spot here, because my producer has been waiting for me to send over some segments, and I'm going to be taping some of tips on cooking and things people can do around their home. So look for those in the next 2 weeks.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today, and I love being in your essence. So thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And you know what? And the feeling is mutual, my dear.